Part 2. Part 2 is going to be from the inferior view of the skull. The first bone I'd like to mention is the palatine bone. I like to remember this as the palatine bone because we eat palate cleansers and we like those to touch the roof of our mouth in order to be effective. So, palate cleanser, palatine bone. On the palatine bone, we have the palatine process of the maxilla. The maxilla, I like to believe, is the top portion of the jaw, and that includes the top teeth. Therefore, when I see the top teeth, I think maxilla, and it is not the palatine process of the palatine bone, but rather the palatine process of the maxilla. Next, we have the zygomatic arch. The zygomatic arch, circled to the right, will include the zygomatic bone, as well as the zygomatic process of the maxilla and the zygomatic process of the temporal bone. Highlighted first is the zygomatic process of the maxilla, and inferior to that, highlighted here, is the zygomatic process of the temporal bone. Really stretching a little lower as well. Next to that, I'd like to highlight that this is still part of the zygomatic bone. This here is the cheekbone. Next to that, we have the infraorbital notch. Infraorbital notch. It is a little nick. Infraorbital. Infra, inferior to the orbit, infraorbital, and it is a little nick, which is a notch. Next, in the middle, we have the vomer bone. The vomer is homed inside of the nasal canal underneath the palatine bone. Therefore, vomer, homed underneath the palatine bone. Next, we have the foramen ovale, which is still oval-shaped. Trigeminal nerve runs through the foramen ovale. Gem is oval-shaped, more so on that left side. After that, we have the foramen lacerum, which I would like to make a correction from my previous video, but still tying it into a kind of fighting background. I would like to mention boxing, and so you want to make sure your laces are tied in order to avoid getting put to sleep. So foramen lacerum, tie your laces so you don't get put to sleep. Foramen lacerum. Next to that, we are going to have the pterygoid process of the sphenoid bone. The pterygoid process of the sphenoid bone from this point of view is underneath the foramen ovale, which contains the trigeminal nerve. Gems under the soil take a long time to create, and pterygoid reminds me of pterodactyl, which is an old dinosaur. So gem, old, pterodactyl, old, pterygoid process of the sphenoid bone. Underneath that, we have the jugular canal. Same as the previous video. It is going to be reminded from my rock climbing background. That is a jug hold in terms of a rock climbing hold. It is very big. And above that, we have the carotid canal, which contains the carotid artery, not actually in the lacerum as it was from the superior point of view. And we have the occipital condyle located on the occipital bone, highlighted underneath. This is on both sides of the foramen magnum. The occipital condyle, part of the occipital bone, condyle articular surface. Next, we have the mastoid process, which contains mastoid air cells. Mastoid process of the temporal bone includes mastoid air cells. And just above that, we have the external auditory meatus of the temporal bone. External because it is on the outside versus internal auditory meatus. However, it is the inside of the ear canal, and it is going to be auditory meatus, part of the temporal bone, external auditory meatus of the temporal bone.